So my name is Jessica Visek. I'm a certified professional career coach, certified resume writer, and nationally recognized LinkedIn optimization coach, writer, all that jazz. So I have basically the trifecta when it comes to branding, resume writing, and career coaching. So the subject matter that we're going to be talking about is strategic pathways for mastering a 2024 job search for senior financial executives, so this audience, and really actually taking even further into the next year, because we're a few months shy of the next year, which is crazy. So next slide, please. So in this presentation, there's going to be, we're going to talk about 4 key strategies around how to position yourself for a effective job search. So first is positioning for success and what that means. Leveraging networks, adapting to market shifts, and then lastly, building a personal brand. So what does that all mean? First and foremost, the positioning for success is really how to effectively market yourself. And that certainly could mean, when we'll talk later in the presentation around using LinkedIn and other types of social media. It could also really mean kind of as you're networking, like how you're really sitting, or I should say, crafting your elevator pitch, your narrative, to your connections, or potential connections. And we'll be talking about, as we see, leveraging networks is one of our topics. And then going into how to leverage your networks will be, I'll be discussing best practices, as well as really using those best practices for expanding and utilizing your professional connections. And then again, the third topic is aligning with evolving industry trends. So it's like everything, I'm sure in your industry, there's just constant change, and you have to be agile, you have to be adaptable. And then lastly, really, how do you build a personal brand? And that really, for somebody at this level, is really crafting a leadership identity that will resonate with who you're targeting. All right. So, all right. So the first topic that we're going to talk about is the positioning for success. So firstly is marketing yourself. So as I've been saying, and this is woven through the whole presentation, is focusing on your personal brand to showcase your unique strengths, ensuring that you are clearly defining your leadership style and your strategic value. And ultimately, what target audiences really want to hear is why you and why now. And then next up on how positioning for success is identifying your unique value proposition. So this is an opportunity to really pinpoint what sets you apart from other senior executives. Obviously, like any level within an organization or within the market, you need a way to stand out, from the crowd. Thirdly, I should say, is crafting an executive level resume and cover letter. So it's really important that both documents are customized for the audience you're targeting. It's really critical that you're focusing on your leadership in areas like digital finance or M&A, or really where your expertise lies, that will be relevant to that particular company or audience that you're targeting. So I do want to share some case studies with you. As I say, success stories. Firstly, we have a financial controller who was really going after a CFO role at a tech startup. And what this individual did to really set themselves apart is highlighting success in scaling financial systems, reducing overhead by 15%, and managing growth in a corporate setting, and focus on transferable skills like cash flow management and process automation. Ultimately, they were sourced and vetted and were brought on as their CFO role at a fast-growing startup, and then they ultimately were leading its financial strategy. The second case study is a senior financial executive in M&A. And the background here is the finance executive sought a C-level role by aligning M&A strategies with ESG, and ultimately highlighted her role in a $500 million acquisition supporting sustainability goals. So this obviously landed her a CFO role at a global company with a focus on ESG. So biggest takeaway here is emphasizing the measurable achievements and market relevancy. So again, what makes you stand out? Any thought I, because I've said a lot, any initial questions on this particular strategy? I know we'll probably do Q&A at the end because I have a Q&A slide, but thought I would throw it out. All right. So next is leveraging your network. So this is a really critical skill, quite honestly, that I even coach my early career professionals, and I emphasize this is a skill that you need to maintain. You need to continue to work on and strengthen, especially once you get to this level at a senior, senior leadership role, or even within the C-suite. So first off, utilizing your personal professional networks, and that really comes out, both within the financial sector and out. And the opportunities certainly are within LinkedIn, but also really taking advantage of industry events and board membership. So it's not just standing or not just sitting in front of a computer screen, but really getting in front of people, really the traditional, I would say, way of networking, the face-to-face. Maximizing LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is certainly a great tool. I would never say that it's the only tool, especially at a senior level, but it's certainly really a starting point. And it's really using LinkedIn to do research and connect with decision makers, and certainly to showcase your expertise. And then thirdly, really maintaining those relationships. As I was beginning to say, this is a skill that I teach my early professionals and even mid-management folks that haven't really needed to network, and they're realizing that this is a skill that they've neglected, and that if they really want to continue to move up the career ladder, it's something they have to really embrace. And it's important that you nurture these existing relationships kind of for long-term growth, because if you're in a situation where you're in transition and you haven't spoken with some pretty key decision makers that can really help you along through your career search or job search, it's much harder. You certainly want to be as authentic as possible when reconnecting. So success stories. So I do want to highlight 2 success stories. So one is securing a board position. So we had a CFO looking to expand her influence, started networking professionals in adjacent industry via LinkedIn and industry conferences. So she leveraged her existing network to gain referrals and built relationships with key stakeholders. Ultimately, she landed securing a seat on a board of a major tech company, which eventually opened doors to other executive roles, which is great. And then a second success story is a senior finance executive reconnected with a former colleague via LinkedIn after seeing a job in their company. They nurtured this relationship, which led to an internal referral for a CFO role, And then ultimately this executive landed a CFO position, bypassing the traditional application process. That, quite honestly, I have seen over and over again. Quite honestly, I've had clients that really buy into the criticalness of networking, and those who are going to that next level, traditionally roles like, a senior leadership role is not going to be advertised. It's ultimately going to be getting in there, talking with folks that know kind of what the lay of the land is and really where the need is. And then ultimately, they're going to put you in front of people and start to have conversations and really address, their needs and pain points, excuse me. So key takeaway here is networking is the fastest route to high level opportunities. And you again need to build, maintain, and leverage relationships for success.
Real quickly, Jessica.
Sure.
Yeah. Jessica, just let me know when you want this slide changed.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
No troubles. One thing I can say is, as an executive recruiter dealing with a lot of FENG members, whenever I mention networking, almost to the person, geez, yeah, I really haven't been networking all that much. I mean, so tied into this position, but I really have to network. And then they find the position, and guess what they do the next job? The exact same thing. They stop networking. FENG is here to network. It's an easy way to network, most direct way to network, as well as LinkedIn. But that's all, just letting you know it's there.
So the next is really adapting to market shifts. So this is really speaking to obviously things that are outside of our control, really staying ahead of really rapidly evolving industry, or really throughout various parts of the market is being impacted by digital transformation, AI. I was mentioning earlier ESG focus, changing regulations. I mean, they all have impact. So it's just really important to keep yourself abreast on those changes. And I would say also aligning career aspirations with new opportunities. So, for instance, if the trend is around, keep using ESG because that's kind of the hot button topics, is maybe potentially, if that's an area that you want to transition into, then certainly doing what you can from a either professional development perspective, or maybe potentially within your current organization, like taking on maybe some additional responsibilities around this topic. Again, kind of be more marketable in that area, and then that certainly can open some doors. So a case study here that I have is a CFO transitioning to an ESG leadership role. So the CFO was in a traditional finance role for 20 plus years and wanted to really adapt to the rise of ESG. And then he upskilled by completing certifications and led his company's first ESG reporting initiative. And then ultimately that landed him a chief sustainability officer role. So that was just, kind of expanding on what I was saying. And then ultimately, the key takeaway here is adapting to market shifts, requiring continuous learning, and aligning your expertise to emerging trends like fintech and ESG. So next slide. So just to round everything out is building a personal brand. So this certainly really speaks to what I've been saying throughout this presentation on ensuring that you're crafting a personal narrative that resonates with your target audience, showcasing your leadership, your expertise, your values. Certainly, like, for instance, your LinkedIn profile. If that is something like your networking skills that you have really just put on the back burner and haven't really bothered really putting time and attention to that, just thought, oh, I don't really need this. I'm perfectly happy and everything is a-okay, hunky dory. then you're definitely, in a position where you're going to be more reactive than proactive. And the next is really communicating your values. So what this really kind of comes down to is certainly your profile, but even beyond that, I think something I said earlier on how to really communicate yourself, called your elevator pitch, to, I was saying, going to like industry conferences and events, and really face-to-face networking, I think, is the name of the game, to really continue to move ahead, to more senior level positions. So if you really don't have a clear understanding of how to communicate your value, and have a comfort level and a confidence around that, then that's certainly something, to gotta address and work on that. Um, then certainly utilizing social media will, as I say, amplify your brand. LinkedIn and other industry blogs or platforms, you have the opportunity to showcase your thought leadership and your expertise. But it's the word I really like to use here is consistency. It's really staying on top of it and making it a priority. And a case study here, I should say, excuse me, two real world examples of a successful brand built by two financial leaders. We have Jane Miller, who former CFO turned CEO of a consumer goods company. So she built her brand around leadership and operational efficiency and driving profitability through cost control. So then, with her financial acumen and ability to streamline operations, helped her to move from CFO to CEO. So, and then really solidifying her brand as a transformation leader in her industry. And then another example is John Davis. So John Davis, he was a CFO of a mid-sized tech company, and he really wanted to brand himself as a digital finance expert and really focusing on AI-driven financial strategies and automation, which is obviously impacting all sectors of the market. And he became a recognized speaker on financial technology, which then ultimately he became more visible, and then leadership opportunities followed. So biggest takeaway here is strong brand will distinguish you. And again, you need to focus on what your unique value is and how to communicate it. So my apologies. Let me get back. We can move on to the next slide. So now here's the opportunity for questions based on what I've presented. I am all ears.
So can you hear me okay? This is David.
You can.
Yeah. So I've asked this question on a few other forums. Personal website. I had been working on participating in a group, and the leader, who's a recruiter, insists that a personal website is essential.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? Everybody else I've talked to, and mostly professional recruiters, said that's what LinkedIn's for. Maybe that's the wave of the future, but nobody's going to look at your personal website.
Right. Interesting. do you mind if I ask a couple follow-ups just so I can give you a
Please.
effective question? Okay. Or an answer that hopefully gives you some direction. So when you initially were you given some advice on, hey, this will be the way, to use your words, the way of the future to have a personal website? I'm just trying to understand kind of how to then take it or leverage it for what is the purpose? Like, what are you basically using it for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this recruiter, with, of course, all great intentions and many years of experience, has created a group similar to the type of group we have right now of folks that are looking for a career transition. And most of us tend to be folks who have plenty of years of experience. So in addition to, of course, encouraging people to network and all that sort of thing, he insists that you should create a personal website now,
Mhm.
not in the future, now. Secondly, prepare a contact list, all your contacts in a sort of personal CRM, which makes common sense. Then start sending out emails, and I think he actually suggests mass emails, which I would never do, but send out emails, and as part of the blurb in your email, include your website, your personal website.
Okay. So I can certainly do some research and we can kind of have a sidebar conversation about this. I personally hasn't really been anything that either has been told to some of my, like any of my kind of senior level executives as a suggestion. I'm not, downgrading it or saying that there's not any, potential there. I mean, I'm with some of the with the folks that indicated, LinkedIn is certainly a platform. Now you have to obviously use it to its fullest, meaning, like have a fully optimized profile, actually do everything that kind of I touched on. Because I mean, with LinkedIn being millions and millions and millions of folks, it is a challenge to really stand out. So maybe partially and I'm just surmising here, to have your own personal website is like you can LinkedIn and then you can connect actually to your website. Like I'll use kind of me as a business owner. Obviously on my LinkedIn, people can go to my business website. So maybe the recruiter is thinking forward and saying, okay, you have your profile and then you can put your personal website as an extension of your profile. I wouldn't have it as like a standalone. I would kind of use an existing platform like LinkedIn because there are an existing connections. Like it's kind of like a really kind of a CRM on steroids, just from the perspective of the level of connections that you can make and start to really, build relationships instead of having to like recreate the wheel. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That could be some option.
Yeah.
And I also would probably say, be very deliberate on what you're putting on your professional or you're choosing your personal website and ensuring that there's synergy, like they're talking to each other and that it's adding value and not really like, potentially giving people some pause or not really kind of connecting the dots.
It may actually do damage. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. We got a hand.
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Dinesh, go ahead.
Hello. So as you know, many of the executive roles are hidden, right? They are not posted in the job board. I've seen some search firms, they find people on LinkedIn or through referrals. What are things we should do on LinkedIn so that we are found by the recruiting firms or search partners to tap on the hidden job market? And also, what we should do so that our name comes on the top, search engine optimized, right? Because there are millions of people on LinkedIn.
Right.
So do you have any suggestions to tap on the hidden job market? Also, how to be seen on the page one of the recruiter's search results?
Sure. No, that's actually, and thank you for actually the question for both of you for your questions. And I love that you brought up the hidden job market, something certainly I speak to in great length. I kind of touched on it, like you can kind of read between the lines when I was really hitting home about networking, because that's really kind of where the hidden job market also comes into play. So I would probably say when it comes to and I will kind of go back to kind of starting from a very basic level on your profile. So are you, and if this is directed at you or maybe, people in your network that maybe are struggling, is with your profile from the perspective of, is it current? Is it really like showing kind of what you're going after? First off, is it keyword rich? Is it showcasing like the next level up? Like if you're, let's say, a senior VP and you're going, let's say, for CFO role, is it really jumping out because I kind of, you know, the scannability factor is there, just like a resume. Like somebody looks at a profile really quick, so it has to really pop immediately. So from the headline to your about section, I would say is like the starting point. Is it showing me somebody that is ready for a C-suite position? Then from, you know, being found, that really comes into play again with having the right narrative, having the right keywords. Beyond that, and I do want to mention something even beyond LinkedIn, is today recruiters and even executive search firms are not just focusing on LinkedIn, they're also focusing really on your entire digital footprint. So it's going beyond LinkedIn. So, you know, they recognize that just social media is really where people are obviously taking in information and news, as well as really trying to, you know, say, hey, I'm here. Like, you know, I'm look at what I, you know, have to offer. So, you know, certainly other platforms, they'll be searching for a bench of talent. But, you know, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to be consistent with what you're putting out there. And, you know, are you regularly dropping content, both in written form, shorts, reels? You know, what are you showing the market that you are, again, are that leader that that company wants to see? And that, I mean, that would be a starting point. And really, quite honestly, when you are putting out content and you are sharing your thoughts and on certain, you know, relevant topics, then are you then seeing, okay, within the how far is that reach? Like, how far is that getting out there? And then what kind of comments, what kind of visibility are you seeing? What impact does that have on your profile? What is impact that has on just your overall brand? And who's commenting? And then are you following up with those comments? Like, are you connecting with folks that, you know, otherwise aren't, you know, currently in your network? And then kind of following it from there.
Thank
Does
you.
that, was that helpful?
Yeah, helpful. Yeah, like I'm just asking for benefit of others. I found my role. I'm actually landed a few months back.
Okay.
The search firm found me on LinkedIn, and
Oh, great. Yeah.
so yeah, thank you. And but one thing I seen, right, be consistent, be out there, thought leadership, and consistent messaging, right?
Okay. Good. Well, then you were doing the right thing.
Yeah, but yeah, just wanted to bring to the attention of others, right? And there's a lot of hidden job market. By the time it comes job board, it's really outdated. Many other times they already have a candidate in mind.
Exactly.
It gives a
Yeah.
formality, especially for senior level roles.
Yeah. Yeah. And one last point is in the standpoint of, even if the company, let's say that the position was filled or things didn't work out, I mean, and you had build a good rapport, I would say maintain those relationships. You don't
Yeah,
know what the future holds. I would say also targeting companies over positions.
yeah,
If you are seen in the news or you're following certain you know, internals of certain companies that really interest you, then get connected to that company, get yourself in front of them. You know, a lot of times search firms are really preparing for the future. Sometimes it's not a position that they need to fill. They're also trying to build a very strong bench for future opportunities too.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Well,
Jessica, quick question. You made mention about using LinkedIn to begin conversations, to begin relationships. Could you go into that a little bit? How that's done and
sure.
why? First of all, why you do it, how you do it, and the outcome that you
Mhm.
expect to come from it.
Okay. So I would say first, really do your research. Understand, okay, what are you trying to like achieve? Like, you know, have certain goals set. So there's a lot of prep work before really delving into what Ernie was really describing on LinkedIn, to make new connections, because you really, in many ways, when you're making a connection or a new connection with somebody on LinkedIn, your communication needs to be very refined, very specific on what you're communicating to that person, because I know I talk to folks, either friends or clients or colleagues, that in your inbox, if you will, people are getting inundated right and left, and it's hard to kind of sift through the noise. I know me personally, I'm getting connection requests and messages, short little messages. So that's the one point I do want to speak to. Ernie was saying is kind of like how to approach it. Is when you are sending a connection request, do not just send a connection request, include a personal note. And that again goes back to the level of research and time that you've spent for that person and why you want to connect with them. So that personal note, even though you're limited on characters, like again, that note really needs to stand out and really be very authentic, be very genuine. I mean, I'm speaking for myself when I get messages to me, and there's no personal note. Normally I will ignore, quite honestly, unless the exception would be if it's like, for me personally, like if it's an industry, like somebody within my industry, like a fellow career coach, I might do a little further digging. But again, if it's something that is just not obvious, or again, that doesn't have that personal touch, that's really important. And once you set that tone, that initial tone, because again, it's your kind of your first entree into that person's world, and they actually do respond, then kind of going back to being consistent, following up, and keep building that rapport. And personally, I'm a big fan of going offline. I mean, why continue to stay on LinkedIn? That's just the starting point. And then, if they're local, have a cup of coffee or do a Zoom call or whatever works for you. But that I think is a great, way of a strategy on starting relationship and building. And hopefully that relationship will have some mutual benefit. I think that's another point I really want to hit home. You never want to reach out to somebody because you only want something out of them. There needs to be some mutual benefit.
Yeah, Jessica, the other way was explained to me, which seemed kind of beneficial, is, when sit back and think about this for a second and remove yourself, from your desk and from LinkedIn and from your screen. Think about it as if, hey, like I'm in a reception, I'm in a not a cocktail party, but like, I'm in a professional event. And you see two or three people over in the other corner of the room talking, and you go, I know who that is. I know the company that person works for. I want to get involved in that conversation. So, you kind of hover around those two or three people, and you make a little side comment and wave your head up and down and join. And eventually you're involved in the conversation. And then once you're in the conversation, you can make contributions. Those contributions allow you to really build rapport with your target. So think about it, bring it back into your desk and bring it back into your screen on LinkedIn. You're targeting a company. Let's just call it a weird name, ABC company. And you're looking for that, and you're looking for the CEO, the CFO, the CEO, the president, or the board chair, and you know who they are, and you want to make sure if they're active on LinkedIn, you can comment on some of their posts, and you want to make relevant comments on their posts. So what you're doing is, in essence, you're that person now becoming involved in that conversation and not just hovering outside that group of people. So you want to get involved in that group of people. That would then allow you to begin that conversation. And again, short, brief, intelligent conversations, which you have to understand are now being broadcast to everyone who's affiliated with any of the people in that thread. So if you're trying to get to ABC company, you're talking to the president, you're talking to the you're talking to the CEO. And now you are now building relationships within that company. And then when you sit back and reach out to them and say, hey, you and I were talking on LinkedIn, love to talk to you a little bit more. Would you mind allowing me to join your professional network? That is a good way to break the ice.
Yeah.
So just sharing that.
No, I think I love that visual that you mentioned. Granted, I do want to insert something here on generations, right? So you got some really top performers. You know, I'm just throwing out a 30 something, 35, 40-year-old that 35, let's say in the 30s, that has just really hit the ground running, and really is at the table with, you know, senior level executives, and you know, from the perspective of that age group, the last, let's say, 5 years, the opportunity to have more face to face hasn't unfortunately been there, and I think what you're mentioning could be, you know, people need to, and I know I've mentioned throughout this presentation, is really working on your in-personal, being in person, standing within a group, navigating a situation where maybe you know very few people. I think that is a true testament to, are you really ready to truly network and get, like, to your point, Ernie, get in those conversations? Because if you're still using I guess in a way, kind of a security blanket on being on LinkedIn, it's a starting point, but I think that the true testament of when somebody's truly ready and really taking their career to the next level is going to an event you don't know a soul and start to get yourself in conversations with folks and really following up, the follow-up with folks that you do talk to. And that could be on LinkedIn as well. Certainly that's the opportunity. Anybody have any other questions?
John, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so how does this change, if at all, if you're looking for a C-level position? I mean, you know, there's one CFO in a company. So it's not like you go to a company and say, okay, well, there's a half a dozen positions in that company. I mean, these are, how does it change, or does it change at all?
No, I think it's definitely it's a different ball game. And I, you know, Ernie could certainly piggyback off of what I have to say, but I would say, I mean, certainly to your point, I mean, as you get higher, there's less opportunity, as well as relationships are like critical no matter, I mean, definitely showing kind of a track record, having that that thought leadership that's searchable. Okay, if a search firm is desperately looking for somebody to replace, let's say, a retiring CFO, but I would say, from the perspective of you just throwing out some ideas, John, like maybe some volunteer, like community volunteer work, but like not just being a volunteer, like actually maybe being on the board. So being on various boards. I know I mentioned that board, showing board leadership, and like getting within the community potentially of, let's say it's a local firm within your community, or maybe the community over, is quite honestly getting your name, that people are actually saying your name, maybe within certain circles, if you will. And like I said, one way is certainly community leadership, philanthropic opportunities. All I can say is, you know, like I said, going back to the digital, having the digital thought leadership out there. But I can't emphasize enough, like really putting yourself in front of people in any which way you can. And no matter if you're going for a C-level or mid-management, but since your question was on the C-level, is I personally, if it was me, I want to look at this person and look at them holistically, as well as have an immediate idea of who type of leader they are, what type of person are they, you know, would they be a cultural fit? And the only way to really know that, again, is to really look at the person completely holistically, a complete 360 view of that person. So I feel confident, like say I'm part of an executive search team, that I have a good sense, a good pulse on that person. So that's my take. I'm sure where Ernie falls on that from his.
John, yeah, sorry. John, what industry are you in?
Several industries. I mean, digital media, technology, information services, no manufacturing, no healthcare.
Okay. Information services.
Content. Yeah, right. Information
Okay,
services.
so you're looking for a CFO role in that arena, correct?
Correct. Right.
Okay. So the situation comes down to, who do you know in that industry? Well, maybe you don't know any other opportunities for CFOs in that industry, but still, when you talk to other CFOs in that industry, so in essence, you talk to a company that is a target of yours, but there's already a CFO there.
Right.
If you talk to that CFO and say, "Hey, how you doing? My name's John. Boy, you're really in the spot where I'd like to be. Listen, my accomplishments include 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. I'm looking to advance my career right now. If you were me, who would you be talking to? Because I'm going to lay odds that person is probably in different circles than you are. They may know other people. So, it's so beneficial to do. And with me, I believe in giving first. So you have a conversation with somebody and say, "Hey, boy, you're a CFO, I'm a CFO. Love to find a way to get together. Hey, listen, real quickly." And this is not a plug for anybody. Please understand this. I do it all the time. Do you know the Financial Executive Networking Group? It's really a great group. They help people that are, CFOs like us. They provide a lot of in-industry networking opportunities where we can learn new processes, best improvements, best cases. Plus, you can also mention that, if you're in transition, there's a lot of good resources for that. Job Club is a fantastic resource to have. So if you find somebody who's saying, "Hey, I'm starting to look," you got to get involved in the FENG either way. And listen, I'll tell you what, it's a closed group. You only open to CFOs, controllers, and directors, and you need to have a sponsor. If you're interested, take a look at it, give them the website, take a look at it. If you want to get involved, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to be your sponsor. What are your chances of getting an impression on this person? What are your chances of getting this person having the opportunity to have a phone conversation with you, or maybe even a cup of coffee? And what are the chances of you becoming a resource to this person and the person being a resource to you, because now you found a chance to give to each other? That's the type of stuff that I find is very beneficial. So even though you're talking to a CFO, that person may be in that industry. They may come back and say, "You know something? I'm involved in the group. There's something going on someplace else down the street. Let me introduce you down there, and you can have a conversation with them, because it sounds like something's about to happen over there. Maybe you can help them out." I'm not being far-fetched. I'm telling you, it works.
No, as a matter of fact, just the other day, I was in a networking group like this, and one of the guys that was a CFO reached out to me. We connected, and he didn't know about the FANG. So I introduced him to the FANG, and he applied for membership there. So I got it.
FENG membership, I hope Joyce is on the phone. It's a cheap, easy give. Members have to sponsor other members.
And it's a valuable gift.
God, I sponsor at least 2, 3 a week.
Do you? Wow.
And it's nothing but the people I talk to, because I want to get a relationship with these people. And FENG is a lifelong relationship. Hey, who was that guy who started you in this office? "Oh yeah, that guy Ernie." Okay, let's talk to him a little bit more. It happens. Sorry, Jessica.
Oh, no apologies. I love that perspective. I'm just thinking from my experience in my chair and what I've seen my clients and what they've told me, kind of what has worked for them. So that's kind of the feedback I've gotten. So that was good. That was good. So in preparation for the presentation, I was thinking what possible questions could maybe just throwing out individuals like yourselves or folks in this looking to aspire, keep moving up their career ladder. And one of the questions that I kind of came up with, just assuming possible questions that could pop up that maybe some people are kind of thinking in their back of their minds is, how, like in a situation where, how do I make my resume stand out when everybody at this level has impressive achievements? And that's important, because then you feel, well, I'm just like everybody else, right? I look at let's say a peer of mine that has had a similar career trajectory, and I'm like, I'm not really seeing how I really stand out. I'm just, it's just not resonating. It's just not really coming to, right in the forefront here. And I'm curious, not to put anybody on the spot, does anybody ever kind of have that sense, like when they look at their, so like, I just kind of look like, everybody else. Not really seeing it.
Bueller. Okay. Let me tell you how I do it.
Go ahead.
Hey, go ahead. Go ahead. Jules, is that you?
This is
Yes.
Jules. I see that.
Yeah. How you doing? You try to find something that makes you stick out. I'm Italian by birth. I always start speaking Italian or whatever, start talking about food. Just to kind of level it out. It's not just strictly right business all the time. That's my approach. And I always, like Ernie does, look to bring new members into FANG. I'm a couple different other things. I get different job lists from people, and I share them with several of the FANG members and other people I know. Mm-hmm. This last week, I had a call from somebody asking me about helping them out or to fill a position in the area here. So it just as Ernie said, it's a give. It's a give. It'll come back. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It'll come back down the line. You just got to find easy talking points. And also today's CFO and finance executive leaders, it's not just finance. You got to understand, because they go to them for everything. Everything comes around the finance and accounting organization, because everything is built there. Everything is, hey, we need to make sure we have this. We need to make sure we have these things lined up. So, and I don't think I'm speaking to anything that anybody doesn't know on this at this meeting right now, but just reiterating that, just a little bit of history on the company, as Ernie said, and just trying to get a conversation going. And hey, how can I help you? We'll work from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Jessica, the thing that I found very beneficial, and you guys might appreciate this, is I go back and I want to stand out by telling them exactly what they want to hear. Not what they want to hear, what they need to hear. If they're applying for, and usually I'm sitting back and I'm answering a job ad. Prime example, how do I stand out from the group in a job ad? I will sit back and I will do a copy and paste on the job ad, and I'll put it into Word. And underneath each bullet of the job description, I will list how my accomplishments, not my experiences, my accomplishments compared to the specific requirements of that bullet. Mm-hmm. And then I'll go back and I'll simply put it into my resume at the top of where it applies. Hey, I split the atom 3 years ago. Well, that's great, but they don't want you to split the atom. They want you to do an integration of a recently acquired organization and find synergies. So you explain how you did that and how you found synergies following integration, and you put that right to the top of where that is in that opportunity. And then once it's inside your resume, you then sit back and pick up the phone and have a conversation. Mm-hmm. And you have a conversation with the target. Now your target is the person who's making the hiring decisions. Now John's talking about going for a CFO spot. John, who's going to be hiring you as a CFO? Who is the person who's going to be making the hiring decisions?
The CEO, the board, the investor.
So now there's three people, maybe there's multiple investors, but there's people who you can now talk to. Hey, how you doing? My name's John. Need your help. My accomplishments include requirement 1 of the job, requirement 2 of the job, requirement 3 of the job, requirement 4 of the job. Listen, I'm looking to advance my career right now. If you were looking to advance your career here, end of October in 2024, with those accomplishments, who would you be talking to? The gal's going to say one of 3 things. Go away, pound sand, you lazy son of a so-and-so. Bang on the phone, and you'll go away. If that's happening, what you look to your side, underneath your desk, underneath your chair, look for pooling blood. If there's not pooling blood, go talk to the next person. So you're going to talk to the president, you're going to talk to the CEO, maybe another one of the investors, and tell them. Second thing, they can go back to you and say, hey, I don't know anybody. That's not here. I'm not doing that. But I'll tell you what, my buddy across the hall, my buddy across the country, they're looking for somebody exactly like that. Say, great, would you mind introducing me to that person? You're standing out to this person. They're putting their name and their trust. And then you want to get introduced to that other person through that person's goodwill. Not a bad deal. The third thing they can do, and maybe you've seen this before, excuse me, hang on for a second. And they stand up and you hear their door closed. Great. Where the heck you been all my life? I'm looking for somebody just like that to report to me right now. We need another person right now in that spot. What's your availability for a longer conversation?
Mm-hmm.
That's how you stand out. You tell them what they need to hear about you.
Mm-hmm.
You're intelligent. You're in the industry. You've been there all your professional career. You know what they want to hear. And you're not fabricating. You're actually building up your accomplishments and saying, hey, this is how my accomplishments compare to what you're looking for. And they fit in there, hand in glove, interlock. And let's go from there.
Yeah. Well, you're doing the work for them. You're making their lives easier. You're kind of doing the search for them, which saves, a lot of time. And to Ernie's point, you're putting it right front and center. There's nothing's hidden, there's no surprises per se, unless as they're talking, they start to kind of reevaluate. But that's outside your control. But I think in many ways, if you approach it like that, one, you're, like I said, doing the work for them, but you're also showing how you're very proud and very confident in what you've achieved. And this is going to tell them how you're going to be and how you're going to represent their organization. And in a way, you're mentally, in your mindset, you're already kind of putting yourself in that particular role. And then your behavior and really how you're presenting yourself will follow that point. So, anybody, any questions bubble up from this conversation or my presentation?
Anybody? Guys, I really appreciate your time being here tonight. Again, if anyone wants to say anything, just interrupt me, please. But first of all, I'd like to thank Jessica for giving, an hour of her time to be with us tonight. Hopefully you've had a chance to learn a little bit more about Jessica. Jessica, if anyone wants to talk to you, how do they get your contact information?
So the next slide will have that.
Okay, now I got to go back to the slide here. Hang on. Gotta find out how to do that. Hang on. I think I had it here. I'm gonna love the recording of this.
All right. So just going over all the key strategies: positioning for success, networking, adapting, being adaptable, being agile, and then your personal brand. And really my final thoughts, and I I think you've probably gotten a sense of kind of how I operate as a career coach is being in a position of strength, being proactive, being adaptable, and really being very strategic, just not throwing yourself out there. And those are my my final thoughts and recommendations. If you are in a situation where you want to move up in your career and ultimately start to put together a job search. So here's my information. My email is here, jessicavisick1003@outlook.com. You can find me under Jessica Visek on LinkedIn, but this is my URL. And then my company website is yourcareerpartner.net. So make sure it's net, not .com. So it's .net. So those are all my contact info. And if you go to my LinkedIn, my email's there, my phone number. You can obviously send me an email. And then, or you can contact me via my website. I do have at the like a quick form submission, just to send me a question or want to chat. I will get that to my email. So,
Jessica, this has been absolutely excellent. Ernie, we appreciate it too. Forgive me, I wasn't paying attention. How do we get a copy of the presentation?
We are going to send it to you.
Oh, that's great.
We are going to send you our host at the FANG, Joyce Gibney, will be sending you the link to access this, and you can actually replay it through all the hims and haws and everything else we were getting together. But also, most importantly, you'll be also seeing all the contact information. That is one thing that's extremely important. In fact, I had a personal problem. I lost my computer. I had a pretty bad fall, and I fell on my computer bag and destroyed my computer. So I'm in the process of taking everything from this little box here where all my old computer stuff is and getting it over. So I don't have one built up yet, but I have a little blurb about my contact information. Whenever you are in a LinkedIn, or excuse me, a Zoom presentation, or a virtual presentation, be it on Zoom, Teams, or wherever else, in the chat, put your contact information, your name, your email address, your phone number, what you do, where you're located, and people will want to know that. Now, if you have that in here, and mine's not going to be in there because I've been putting all these buttons in here. I've been moving the screens forward. I was afraid to move off of what I was doing, but it's ideal. I know I'm assuming Jules is already in there. And you can see what Jules did when he did that as well, and put that right in the chat feature. That is invaluable.
Ernie, we have a lot of them in there. I requested that earlier on when
Good.
you were.
I remember you asked me.
So,
But the thing about this nice is have that. And as I said, mine was in my computer that I lost. So I had I'm going to have to extract it from my memory, but it's all right there. I have it right in a Word doc, and it's given a weird name, a unique name that I can go in, copy, grab it, copy and paste, bang, paste it right in there, and it's going.
Yeah. Hey, Jules, we have to schedule some time to talk about Italian food and wine when you have a chance.
va bene, fammi sapere quando parlare.
Sarà un piacere.
Why do I always, when these guys are
Ernie,
talking, I always see, whenever Jules talks, I always hear the theme of The Godfather ringing in the back of my ear. And I've known Jules
I'm
for
all about
probably
food and wine.
Me too.
Food and wine. I've known Jules for probably close to 30 years. And
Yeah, we go back.
we go back. We're good friends. And
Yes.
but he's just a great guy. Jules was born in Italy. He came over as a toddler, and went from Italy with his family, and then came over to an Italian community inside of Philadelphia. And so Italian is more than just his lineage; it's his life, and it's his heritage, and it's his family.
And I share it.
That's great.
Always invite you to the table.
That's
I'm the
wonderful.
president of the board for Catholic Charities Appeal. You know who the vice president is, or the vice chair is, Jules. And whenever we have an Italian parish we're talking to and making the spiel, I say, put Jules down in South Philadelphia. And Jules goes down and he gives a spiel. Because again, it's networking. It's getting to be with people. It's understanding what makes them work. Guys, it's 7:12 here in the East. I thank you for your time. Please reach out to Jessica, see how you can help her. By the way, help her, have her help you. But also too, if you're involved in any of the organizations who are looking for a speech from a career coach, please mention Jessica's name. And I know Jessica will be hopefully solicit. If you guys agree, let us know. We can certainly share her contact, her name, what we feel about her with other FENG chapters. Oh, by the way, before we leave, we're talking about things we know, people. I need help. I have a position in the Toms River area of New Jersey, along the coast. We're looking for a controller. It's a low six-figure job, but you might know somebody who could step in and be in this position. It is a company that's doing with construction and management of mixed-use housing. The thing about this, which is kind of neat, even though it's a low six-figure job, the CFO in this position is going to be leaving probably in about 3 to 5 years. So this position could certainly increase and really jumpstart. That world is an ugly place to be. Construction and mixed-use housing and management of mixed-use housing. However, this organization has a fantastic collegial culture.
Hey,
So
I used to
if you
do
know
that.
anybody, what's that, James?
I used to do that.
James, you're in Morton.
Yes, well, that is an issue, but it is something I used to do. And I might know somebody.
That's what you took the words right out of my mouth. James, let's talk either tomorrow or on Wednesday and give you a chance to reach out. We can talk a little bit more about this. It's going to be a bit of a hike for somebody to go up and over since where it is. But I have placed people with this organization before who have come down out of New York. Ironically, the person who I placed, I met at an FENG meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, now I can admit it. I'm from New Jersey, guys, so I know Tom's River rather well. It's close to the beautiful beaches and all that. All right. If I
But
hear
you know
about
what I'm saying though, David, it's not
Yeah.
exactly the easiest place to get into. You have to be very close to one of the corridors, one of the arteries that's going to go around or through not only the bodies of water, but also those beautiful things called pine barrens. And there gets to be a lot of woods in the way.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
But if you know anyone, please reach out to me and let me know. Jessica, thank you ever so much again. Do you have anything to say?
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. And if anybody wants to reach out with any further questions, or if you need a career coach or know somebody that does, please feel free to send them my way, and I'll be happy to do this talk or another topic, maybe an offshoot of what we discussed tonight, for the chapter, or anybody that you might would get value from somebody like me. But it was a pleasure meeting all of you.